Yeah.
So I go on Alibaba and I found another factory, and they had it in stock and they were ready to ship immediately. Guy's name was Usman Sise, and I sent him the money and he stole everything from me.
Well, hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to the Rock Your Brand podcast. I'm your host, Scott Voker, a serial entrepreneur on a mission to help you. This show is designed to teach you, to inspire you, to motivate you to take massive action and build a future-proof business. So, whether you're just starting out or taking your existing business to the next level, this is your home. Now, if you're ready, I'm ready. Let's rock your brand. What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Rock Your Brand podcast. This is episode 942, and today I've got another special featured guest, and his name is Carlos Alvarez. And besides being a massive guy, like if there's one guy that I want to make sure that I'm buddies with, it's him. Just because he's massive and I feel really protected when I'm in his presence, which I did get to hang out with him in Florida a couple years back. Really great guy, but really what he's going to be sharing is, years of being an entrepreneur, all the way from selling crickets. Actually, let me take it back there. Selling, I believe it was silicone rings, then crickets, blew that up, sold that business, and then has built multiple businesses and has generated millions online. So I'm going to leave it at that. It's going to be a great in-depth conversation that I had with Carlos. He's a great guy, willing to share. He's built a huge community in the Amazon space, one of the largest meetup groups in the world, really. And he's going to talk about that as well. So guys, sit back, relax, and enjoy this interview that I did with my good friend, Carlos. All right, Carlos, welcome to the podcast, the Rock Your Brand podcast. What is up, man? How you doing?
What's up, man? This is it. Like, I've made it now. I'm on your show.
Yeah, right. Dude, the first time we met it was Miami, right? Or was it Fort Lauderdale?
I think like official meet was Fort Lauderdale.
Okay.
It was
that was
an after
Sellers,
party.
Yeah, it was the Sellers Summit, Steve Chu's event. And I had mentioned that I was going to do a little meetup. And then you were like, hey, do you mind if I bring over some people? And I'm like, no, sure, that's fine. And you bring over like 50 people from your group. And I was like, dude, man, I didn't realize it was like that big of a group. Like I thought it was a few people. I mean, they had to make room and space and everything. And it was pretty awesome, but it was pretty incredible to see the impact that you were making on a group of Amazon sellers and stuff at the time. So anyway, that's how we first met. And I think Kevin Sanderson was actually at that event. That's where I met him for the first time in person, which is kind of funny. But
Kevin's become a close friend. He's presented several times at our meetup group. He's been on my podcast. Like, good guy.
Yeah. No, Kevin's awesome. And it's just funny how things happen. But anyway, I wanted to get you on the show. And I wanted to kind of take people through your journey. And maybe you can just start by letting people know a little bit about you, where you come from, and kind of how you got into this game.
Yeah, sure thing. I'll try to do the fast version, but I'm an elementary school dropout, first of all. And I came from a really abusive home. And I think in fourth grade, I walked out. I literally just walked out the back. And I'm 44. So back then it wasn't as you never heard of that, like, especially elementary school. I'm hoping to this day, like, there's not a lot of walkouts, but I walked out. I eventually get caught, but I kept doing it. And I just walked over to I think it was like a local drugstore, and I walked out. I didn't have money, so I guess I know what happened. And I walked out with fishing gear, and I went fishing. So that trend in my life continued, and nothing really amazing happens, I feel, until I'm now in my mid-20s and I'm working 4 jobs like somebody would who dropped out of elementary school. Like all my other friends are getting those career jobs. They have the college education, and I'm sort of embarrassed. I'm the dairy clerk. I'm delivering subs. I'm selling cigars. And I had an expensive ex-girlfriend at the time. So I'm constantly looking for these odd jobs to get some extra money and get that thing for her.
Okay.
Well, one of those odd jobs wind up being eBay, like something I found to sell on eBay. And I don't even remember what the first thing was that I sold. And I just know that when I listed it, it sold, I shipped it. Somebody communicated back with me, thanking me. And I was really hooked on the experience. It felt empowering.
Mm-hmm.
So I quadrupled down on it. When I wasn't working, I was doing this. Friends and family see this though, and they say like, wow, they start using words like entrepreneur, e-commerce, things like that. You know this, but we're talking 16, 17 years ago.
Yeah.
Saying that you were an eBay seller or an Amazon seller wasn't really seen as a solid career path or like this.
No, a little side hustle, right?
Yeah. Or juvenile, like, or something you do in the summer, you know? So I was very insecure about that. Friends and family though, they're like, look, let's feed this. Let's get him to like do something with his life probably. So they pulled together $81,000. And at the time I had just discovered Alibaba. It looked completely different than it does now. And I had these little rings. There was an adult novelty product and I was getting them for like 16 cents, selling them for like 20 something bucks on eBay. So when I got this $81,000, I'm like, man, I'm going to go all in on this product. I contact the factory named Pleasure Chest. I was talking to a guy named Elvis and he's like, we don't have that in stock. So obviously a factory doesn't randomly have $81,000 of these little silicone rings in stock.
Right.
And I thought I was offended. I'm like, you don't know who I am. I'm going to be the next Bill Gates, like things like that. That's in my ignorance. So I go on Alibaba and I found another factory and they had it in stock and they were ready to ship immediately. Guy's name was Usman Sise. And I sent him the money and he stole everything from me. It didn't exist.
Oh, wow.
Like factory in Hong Kong type of thing.
Oh my gosh.
And that just devastated me. Like being broke was something that I was very accustomed to at that point, but losing that positive, good feeling of other people seeing me in a positive light was something that I didn't want to lose. So I told nobody. And I went out and started selling almost everything I had to try to, you know, get things going again. One of those things I went to do was to sell 2 of my snakes. I like reptiles. I have a Burmese python and a Colombian red-tailed boa. I have them in pillowcases. I'm in a pet store and I'm in line to sell them. And the person in front of me was paying $25 for 50 live worms. And in desperation, I thought, man, like teary-eyed, like I would go dig like I'm a hard worker. I will dig all day for worms and sell them like that. So I end up in a public library looking for like, where do worms live is where I'm trying to go. And what I wind up finding is an article by a zoologist saying that these zoos could save money in the reptile department, I think it's herpetology department, breeding insects instead of paying top dollar on the private market. So I said, okay, how do you like breeding insects? Like they mate and they eat. Like I can do this. Yeah. So I went to the store to get some bins. I couldn't afford. Bins are actually quite expensive. So I couldn't afford bins. So I go back to what I knew, which was like garage sales and getting stuff to flip on eBay. And I started like getting this hodgepodge of like pennies on the dollar bins from all over the place. And I wind up making these habitats in my house to breed insects to sell online. Ex-girlfriend had enough, like insect guy was too much. She leaves. I get a knock on the door from code enforcement one night. At this point, we're talking about almost a year later. I had upwards of 4 million, just in crickets alone, upwards of 4 million crickets in a residential area. So when those things went off, it was deafening. And they told me I had to get it out. I bluffed them and said it would be an agricultural disaster if I did. And they gave me until the next day. I found a friend with a warehouse to continue breeding them. I'm selling them online at the time. Fast forward 10 months later, and I get approached, 10 to 12 months later, I get approached by a company to sell my business, and I wind up exiting for $2.6 million. Oh
my gosh.
With that, I immediately start almost like whoring around Miami. I don't know what to do with money. And I realize at some point that if I don't do something different, I'm going to be broke in a year. And the only thing I had ever done successfully in my life to that point was sell online. So I went back to Amazon and started doing what we call wholesale now, and another private label, which was a beverage chilling device. And then I've just not looked back since, and I've been a full-time seller for 15 years.
Wow. Okay. We got to unpack some of this here. There's a lot there.
Sure.
The $81,000.
Yep.
Okay. Who gives you that money? Like, is just
a whole bunch of friends and family. I'm blessed with a big family, and I had a lot of friends
And so what were they giving the money for? Were they going to get compensated back? Was it an investment? What was it?
Nobody wanted interest. And you
Okay.
know what? I think if I would have went to some of these friends and explained what happened, I think about half of them would have been suspect. They would have been like, oh, he did something shady with the money. Or
Yeah.
another half would have been like, don't worry about it. Like, we considered that high risk. Like, we really didn't think we'd get it back.
Yeah.
But none of them wanted interest. A lot of it was just like, someone puts in 10,000 and they're like, well, just pay us back within 2 years.
Okay.
And I had seen like what I was doing and the returns that I could get. And I was like, that's no problem. So I would take it.
Got it. So, okay. So you have this money, you lose the money. You don't really tell anybody that you lose the money. So technically, if you technically started the cricket business and the worm business with no money, basically.
Correct.
Right. So
Correct.
the 81,000 didn't really help you start that business, although it did open your eyes to the online space and kind of like what you were going to try to do. And you started having success with the silicone rings and all that stuff. So it kind of led you in that direction. But the worm and cricket thing was because you started to see that people were buying worms and you're like, I wonder if I can dig up some worms somewhere. Right.
Yeah, absolutely. And I look online to see where it can sell, and lo and behold, it sells amazingly on eBay and Amazon.
And
so I was
that's
like,
gonna
okay.
be challenging though, shipping live crickets or live worms. What was that like? Did you have to learn that? Like, how did you learn that stuff? Like, how do you learn how to ship stuff live and they don't get it there and they're dead?
For anybody watching this, I guess later on video, behind me, a lot of these books towards the bottom have to do with that. Like, I reached out to professors in different universities asking about insects. I did a lot of research. As far as the shipping part of it, you're correct. It's a total nightmare. And I learned a lot. If you're shipping 150 units out a day and the average unit has 1,500 worms or crickets in it, if you even attempt to count them one by one, that'll never happen. So what you do is you get a bunch of different scoopers and you measure it out once, like one by one, and you add like another 250 to 300 to them in case any die in transit. And then you're like, okay, filled to this line at this age, that is this amount. And then you're just dealing with a scooper and USPS.
Okay. Got it. Okay. Cause I can imagine like in the heat and stuff, it's going to play a role.
Oh, yeah.
And
you put ice packs, you put cold
Yeah.
packs, you put hot packs, depending on the receiving destination.
So were you shipping to individuals or businesses, reselling them?
Initially, it was, I'm going to say it was almost all individuals, but actually something that you said many, many moons ago, I almost positive it was on a YouTube video, and it had to do with looking at the addresses sometimes on these orders where you saw that you received maybe orders larger than normal. It could have been a podcast. I mean, you've put out a lot of content, but you said something. So I went back in and I start looking at these orders. I'm like, okay, reptile owner Bob, I see him ordering 1,000 crickets. Why is this person ordering 10,000 crickets? And I would just Google Earth the address, and I'm like, oh, this is a pet store. And then I would reach out to the pet store. I know that's like not in the most compliance with terms of service, and I'm very white hat, but that's how I learned that I had businesses even approaching me. Since then, I sold that business, and when my non-compete ended, I started it again. So I have 5 brands currently, and that's one of them. But since then, I've picked up a lot of poultry farmers. I get a lot of contracts for like refining this for the inclusion into bread or protein supplements, fish food. It's really expanded since then. But initially, I'm going to say the majority of them were somebody had a lizard or an iguana or a snake, and they wanted to feed them.
Yeah. I seen something on Shark Tank a while ago. And I think it was crickets. Was it cricket protein or something that people are using? Was that the thing? And they're using it for actually protein now for people?
Yeah, definitely. It's something that's exploding. And most people probably have had some form of cricket protein in a food and not realize it because it doesn't, there's no like huge warning label that says cricket.
Yeah.
And the brand you might be thinking of is Chirps.
Okay.
On Shark Tank. But yeah, absolutely. It's something that's exploding.
Okay, cool. All right. So you exit that brand and then you start like saying like, this is cool. I got some cash. And and then you're hanging around Miami and having a good time. And then you're like, and how old were you at this time? Approximately?
Oh man, at this point is when I go full time. So let's call this right around the time I was 15 and a half years ago. So I am 44 now. I'm doing some math.
Yeah. Let's not do this.
Early 30s, right?
Yeah, let's call it early 30s. Okay.
Early 30s sounds good.
Early 30s. Now, at that point, you weren't married yet either?
No,
Okay.
no, I was not.
You're a single guy then?
Yes.
Carlos in Miami, single guy.
Well, I was married in my business, making all the mistakes you make in a business and thinking, start working before the sun comes up, stop working when the sun comes down. That's the only option you have, yada, yada, yada. Yeah, that's what I thought. And that's what I did. So there was no time for any other relationship besides my businesses.
What, let me ask you, this is a random question though. Like for a car, man, I picture you like when I was in high school, like you were the guy that was driving the IROC. Did you have an IROC?
No, I didn't, but I love IROCs. I absolutely love them.
I bet you did. I had a guy that we used to go jet skiing with. He always drive up in his IROC, and man, he would be you, man. I mean, if I was young, 19, 20, I had a buddy. If it was Carlos, it would be him pulling up in an IROC with the T-tops, all polished.
I don't even think I don't even think I've ever been sat in an IROC, but I absolutely love that one. I love the Mustang 5.0. No, I'm more of like a Suburban or SUV.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Now
Grand National. I could see you driving a Grand National too. Black.
Oh, I guess.
Yeah.
So, some of these other like amazing cars I don't fit in. So I'm a little over 6'5", and now I'm like 300 and something pounds. So
you're a big dude.
Yeah, it's like,
that's what I said to you when we were hanging out in the bar at that. I go, dude, man, regardless, man, I go, we got to be friends just because you're so damn big. You can like be my bodyguard. Holy crap. Yeah, you're a big guy. Okay. So you make some money on the exit. You're kind of at that point now where you're like, okay, I got to figure out what's the next move. And at that point, is it something that you feel as though you wanted to figure out what was the best way so you don't lose your money, at that point? And how do you figure out what that next move is?
All guessing. I think I'd like to consider myself successful now, but I think a lot of it stems from maybe just being too dumb to fail. Like no one told me any different. Like no one told me like, hey, that's really bad. You should file for bankruptcy. And instead I'm just like, push through this, make it work. And it did. Yeah. So for me at that point, what happened, two major things happened. One is I get my first taste of business partners, which I did horribly wrong for a long time. And it cost me all my best friends, my brother, everything. It's just like, let's partner up, no operating agreement, nothing. And the other thing I learned a lesson on was cash flow, which again, elementary school dropout, I was never introduced to this beast. And on the wholesale side, we rapidly took the business to, we call it about 14 million in gross sales. Again, Amazon was a different animal back then. Not that you can't do that now, but
right.
And I would pull up to the gas station wondering which credit card wouldn't decline. Like, could I put gas? So I was just broker than I had ever been, getting these really fat disbursements. And that was me becoming intimately aware of what is cash flow, and then dealing with business partners and just that whole, that's pretty much the perfect description of my first few years. Okay.
So, okay. You get yourself in a little bit of a mess, a little bit of a pickle. You're learning, right? But you're right. I mean, and even to this day, like I've dabbled in both, right? I've run, digital product only businesses. I've done physical product only businesses, and I've done a mix of the two. And physical products, man, takes a lot of capital, I believe you're also friends with Mike Jackness. He was telling me like he was sitting on $1 million of inventory of coloring books and pens, all of that. And he's like, you don't realize that when you're laying in bed at night, yeah, you have $1 million business, but you got $1 million in inventory. And if something happens to your listings, you're freaking in trouble because now you're sitting on an inventory. So how do you deal with that? Like, and even to this day, you probably have inventory, right? Like, so you're dealing with that stuff. how do you deal with that? I know on the surface, and we see this in our world that we live in, it's like screenshot after screenshot. This business did 30 million. This one did this, but they don't look at like the bottom line, like what is actually coming in. And really, I realized that this year, when you really make your money in a lot of businesses, when you sell that baby, because you get all the inventory back, right? They pay for all the inventory, and then you say, oh, there's all my profit. It was in the inventory. How do you deal with that? How do you deal with that?
Well, you're absolutely right. I've exited several businesses over the last, decade and a half that I'm going to call them Amazon businesses, even though I've always had my foot in other off Amazon things for my Amazon business.
Yeah.
And when you exit is definitely the best payday. But how I deal with it now, I hire people. If the question is like how to know your numbers and all that, I hire people that know how to do that, because not only am I not very good at it, if I knew that I had to wake up in the morning and, today's the day that we're going to figure out our cash flow and all this other stuff, I just wouldn't want to do it. Like I'd rather be a barista at Starbucks. Like I don't want anything to do with that. Now I'm aware of what's going on. I know the questions to ask, and I'm also very conservative, if you will. Like, if anything, I maybe err too far on that side. But that's about the best answer I could give for how I deal with it. I don't want to take credit for like doing all this amazing stuff in my business, and then people on my team are listening and they're like, Carlos, we do this. Like, what do you mean?
Well, no. And I think that's an important point, right? It's like, what's your superpower and what are other people's superpowers? Like, you have to lean on that. I think as you grow and you have to realize you can't do everything. And honestly, your business will probably grow more if you just delegate and hire other people that are good at that. There's a book out. It's called Not What, Who. And I believe it's from, and I'm going to screw this up. It is the success coach. Sullivan. It's Dan Sullivan. Yes, I was able to remember that. Yeah. I'm telling you right now, he talks about that. The bottleneck in your business is most likely you. And the reason is because you're trying to do too much. So it's not what can I do, or, it's like who. You need to find your who's in the world to take care of the what. And then you figure out what you're good at, what you want to do, what lights you up every day, right? Like me being on here with you, I love this. I don't want to be the one editing it. I don't want to be the one that uploading it to Dropbox and doing the show notes and all that stuff. I don't want anything to do with that. When we're done here, it's done. It gets sent up. We're good, right? So it's finding the who. And I think that's a great point that you bring up. And for a long time you did it, but you were like, okay, why is the business not doing what it should be doing? It's because you don't know your numbers. Well, if you don't know your numbers, you don't understand, where you need to cut costs, where you need to increase revenue or whatever. So it totally makes sense. And I think that's a valid point for anyone out there. Let's talk about this real quick. There's also a story, if you don't mind sharing. The one story you told me, we'll talk about this after. The one where you took a group of people over to, I believe it was China, and you got pulled aside, man. Like,
oh my God, yeah.
Let's save that story for a minute, but let's definitely go back to that story.
Definitely. That's
insane, right? So I'm going to leave a little teaser there for people to keep listening, because that story is worth hanging around for. It's crazy story. But I want to speak to, because you've got numerous things going, right? You got numerous things going. Now you're podcasting, right? Something you've been wanting to do for a while. Now you're doing it. You're doing some book reviews you're doing on your channel and stuff, which I think is awesome. What is it that you want to do, Carlos? Like, because I think at this point, it's like you're doing so much. You've got a young family, right? So at this point, like, what do you want to do? Is it building physical product businesses? Is it, you have a dance studio too?
Yeah. Dance studios, a whole bunch of other offline businesses as well, funded with the Amazon. So I just didn't know 15 years ago that this would still be an amazing opportunity 15 years later.
Yeah. So let's do this. You don't have anything and you're going to start over. What are you going to do? What's Carlos going to do? You got a lot of stuff going on right now, but I don't know if you've seen the show out. It's a new show. And I believe Grant Cardone is one of the first no, he's the second season, and it's only on like the first episode. It's where they take all their money away. They give them $100. They drop them off into a random place, and they got to generate $1 million business idea or a business that could be funded in 90 days. Right. I think that's a tall order. But let's not even say that it's $1 million in 90 days. What are you doing to really start from scratch with everything you know? You know, you've got all the knowledge now, all the mistakes you've made and all of that stuff. What would you do today? And we're in a pandemic right now, the time of this recording, new world. What are you doing?
I'm going to play to my strengths. One thing I'm going to do is I'm not going to let pride get in the way. And I've seen this with a lot of entrepreneurs. And that is, if I only have $100, I'm going to get a job. Like, you know what I mean? So like, I'm going to get a job. There's not going to be this thing that, you know, you're not a real entrepreneur unless you're doing this full time. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go get a job. And I've just found that you make better business decisions when you're not concerned that your lights get cut off. So, and I'm going to be the best mopper, the best barista, whatever that job is. Like I am going to be a rock star at it. And with the $100, I'm going to play to my strengths. I'm relatively new to the like informational product stuff. I pay attention to a lot of what you put out, and it's always like, I want to do that, but God, how can I match that quality? So I would, I don't feel like that's a strong suit of mine now. I'd maybe play with it. The two strong suits of mine right now are building community and have always been email. Just emails like the central nervous system of a business. So I would want to start probably on meetup.com. I would start a community around a subject. I would create an informational product. I'd get people on my email list and I would start selling. Like, saying that, you know, I would go to Amazon and start a, you know, if I got $100, I'm not getting on a $40 a month Seller Central account thing. Right. And then 4 weeks to check in with my inventory. Like that's not going to work. So that's what I would do. I feel like that's that would play to my strengths.
Yeah. And you know, I think that you have a ton of knowledge, whether that's just you even coaching people and helping people with the Amazon side. Like you don't even have to be the person with the money. You can just be the one that's helping Amazon businesses grow because you already know that. I'm not saying that would be wiped away. That's a huge strength for you. And then I think you just have a lot of offline experience too, that we haven't even tapped into. I was thinking about this the other day, and I think I was talking to my son about it. He's 22 years old, and we're actually doing something for him right now. He's into vertical jumping. He's helping kids with vertical jumping. He's got a vertical jumping machine. It's a little contraption with these bands on it, and it's called a Vertimax. It's actually about a $3,000 machine. He picked it up on Craigslist for like $1,100. He's got it in a storage unit that's heating and cooling in there, so it's nice and the conditions are right. With the pandemic, it's been tough, but he just wants clients, and he's got some clients for volleyball and basketball. So what I would do is exactly what I'm advising him to do is we're going to just put a pin where our high school is, and we're going to go 15-mile radius on a Facebook ad, and we're just going to target everyone in here. And it's like having billboards that we're only paying for like 3 cents a view. And we're just going to hammer this area, and everybody's going to know who Scotty the trainer is. Right. And so what I would do personally is I would walk into shops around here and I'd be like, hey, do you want everybody to see you on a regular basis? I'll do it for you for $500 a month, and you just pay the ad spend, and you probably only got to spend about 500. So about $1,000, we'll get a lot of people through here. Right. So it's playing to your strengths and what you think that you could help people with. I think what you said there too is the email list is critical. And so many people say, email's dead. It's not dead. It's still there. I want to talk about the Meetup stuff because you said you'd go right to Meetup. You know Meetup pretty well. You've been doing it a long time. Let's talk a little bit about what you did, why it originated anyway. Like, why did you even decide to start this Meetup, how it's evolved, and how you've done it for a long time just on meetup.com. Like, let's talk about that. Where did that even come from?
So meetup.com, it started because I've used meetup.com to build communities around my brands and launch brands actually for years. I mean, just over 10 years. Example would be like my abs are not beach ready, but I launched this scuba brand and like these scuba accessories. So what I did was I just walked into some local scuba shops in the area and I'm like, hey, look, will you teach free scuba stuff and certify people? I'll pay you on the back end, but I need you to like once a month and go teach and like take people out. And I got all yeses, it was a huge win for them. And in the meantime, I'd be able to sell my products. you get this free class. Of course, you'll buy my snorkel, for example.
Right. Right.
And I had done that successfully for a long time. I've also, when I've wanted to like launch in other countries, Meetup is in other countries. So I'd be able to like really isolate where I want to get reviews from, where I want to build my community, where I want to test. So I had used Meetup a lot and I was very familiar with it. So I used to meet with just a group of friends and we'd talk shop, we'd talk Amazon, but we'd always tell the same stories. It turned into one of those fish stories, like right. So we're like, we got to get some new blood in here. I knew about Meetup and I was like, okay, let's do it. I created one and I'm just like, let me put it at the Starbucks closest to my house in case nobody shows. I think 4 or 5 of the first 10 events, nobody did show. First one did, fortunately. And since then, I mean, 16 events per month, largest meetup group of its kind in the world, and just an active community of about 4,500 people in South Florida. So yeah, I've learned a lot about building community that way. So it's definitely something that I would revisit and go back to. Something you said just a second ago is 100% right. Like the local Facebook ads. In addition to that, what I do for the group is something that almost nobody does. And that's, I guess, kind of like how everybody says email is dead. They also think EDDM is dead. So every door direct mail. So I would just go on USPS.com business. I'd find my area. I'd put a pin on it. I'd say 3 to 5 mile radius. It'll show me all of the postal routes. And then I can have flyers made, delivered to people's mailbox. I'd make huge, colorful ones. I don't want to get caught up with that spammy envelope mail. And it just worked wonders of getting people to my group and my event, my offering, whatever it may be.
So that's really clever too. I like that. Is using direct mail. A lot of people don't do that. It costs money. Facebook ads cost money. But I love the idea of you're doing something local. And a lot of people think that it only has to be online. So with Meetup, how does that work? Like, do you just put up an event and then people looking for something, or how does that get people's attention if you're not like driving people there from a Facebook ad, or you're not doing direct mail? How does that start to create buzz? Is there an algorithm that, people search? Like, how does it work? Yeah. I don't even know.
So on meetup.com, you create a group, and your group, you give it a name. The better you name the group so people know what the group is about, sure, people that are interested in it obviously will join. And then Meetup does a good job of putting it out there to everyone initially, like in a 10 to 15 mile area. Oh, okay. Also, anyone that goes to meetup.com and is like, meetups near me, you can see a calendar of events of things that are happening.
Oh, okay.
I think the reason that the main drivers for my group, I'm also the Meetup city organizer for Miami. Just like I got on their radar. So wow. I help other organizers organize events for Meetup. And what's really helped me is something I've actually used to get product reviews in the past, which was I would get another flyer similar to this EDDM, and I would walk over to all of the public post up community boards inside of the local Starbucks where people are waiting to get their coffee. Yeah. And instead you see like guitar lessons, math tutor, efficiency for rent, and all this stuff. And I'll just have my amazing, colorful thing and this awesome opportunity. It's free and different ways to reach out to us. I would just canvas all of the Starbucks. I'd get on TaskRabbit still, and I'll have them go to other Starbucks and I'll just canvas it. I'll do
TaskRabbit. What's that?
It's not everywhere, but it's almost everywhere. I call it domestic VAs, but TaskRabbit is, you have anything that you need done domestically and your virtual team can't do it. You just go on TaskRabbit and ask, and somebody will say, yeah, I'll do it. I can do it in the next 15 minutes. So things like waiting in the line at the DMV, or I need you to come repair something real quick, or can you do my groceries? Can you pick this up? Can you drive this over here? Like anything.
That's cool.
And they'll do it. So I'm like, look, I need you to put this, and I need you to stick it to the canvas, the Starbucks here, these addresses. Take a picture when you're done.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Oh, I love that. That's a great idea. I was thinking you could probably go to Craigslist or something and put something out there, but that's amazing. If they have a service like that, that's already built, it's kind of like just little odd jobs, like little odd things that you can do and pick up some cash. I like that. And how do you pay someone for that? Like, is it like in through that service? Like you fund the service and then the service pays them?
Yep.
Basically how it works.
Yeah, exactly. Nice. And you review them, and I've never had an issue through there.
TaskRabbit.
Yeah, taskrabbit.com. Just go to taskrabbit.com and then
I'm gonna
put in
check
your
that
zip
out.
code and you'll see if it's available. I'm pretty sure it'll be available where you are.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's incredible. Look at that. I just learned something today. This is good. That's why I like hanging out with you, Carlos. All right, let's talk a little bit about the group though. Okay, so the group that you created, the biggest group that you've created probably so far, I think, is the Amazon one, right? And that's been going on quite a while now. How many people are in that group, and how do you communicate with the group outside of just Meetup? So maybe you can just.
So we have on Meetup itself, we have about 5,500 members. I'm going to say maybe 700 are sort of dormant, like they joined a long time ago, but they're not active. So we are pushing 5,000 active members just on Meetup. Plus, we have a lot of word of mouth, and the person was like, "Well, I know you have events here. I don't want to sign up for Meetup," and they just come. So I'm going to say that probably pushes it past 5,500 active members. And one thing is, I mean, not taking anything away from a Facebook community. I love them and I have them too. But there is something different to say about a bunch of people that are meeting up face to face and know each other and build relationships. And there's marriages that happen, and like there's a lot. So it's a very close knit community. It's very powerful. Now between events, we've tried a lot of different things over time. That's why there's so many. But we have the Facebook group, which Wizards of Amazon. That's turned into more of a, now people from all over the world have kind of gotten in, which is cool. So it's not very like Meetup focused, but for people that prefer Facebook, we have that. We also have a very active Telegram chat community. We wanted to use WhatsApp, but WhatsApp was very, you have people posting inappropriate things in there constantly. If they get the link, Facebook limits you to the amount of people that can be in it. So we use Telegram.
I've been thinking about Telegram here lately. It's funny that you bring that up. Walk me through that real quick here, and anyone else that's listening, if they wanted to use this as a way to communicate, because I know that you can use Messenger, right, for like Facebook. Like, it's similar to that, but so people have to sign up. They have to have a Telegram account. Does that ping their phone? Like how does that show up? I guess is how would I do that if I wanted to create a little Telegram for my coffee talks in the morning? I'm like, you know what? I'm going to create a little private group for just my coffee talk people, and this way here, when I'm getting ready to go on 15 minutes before, I can say, hey, boom, we're going on. We're going to be talking about this. Make sure you show up. This way here, I'm not letting Facebook notify people because they're terrible at it.
Yeah.
How would I do that?
So on Telegram, you can have a broadcast channel or a group. So what you'd probably want both. The broadcast channel is only you post. So anyone that it's almost like a newsletter, like anyone that wants updates, real time, anything that you want to talk about, you can push it out to the broadcast. And no matter how many people you have, they all get notified. Yes, you can, depending on how the person has their push notifications set up. Yeah, you can definitely ping their phone. Clubhouse is a big thing right now, but it has a built-in Clubhouse. Like you can have an audio only group of like an infinite amount of people. You can do that with video. There's also the text. Now the group side of it is very similar to what people could probably imagine in a WhatsApp group, except 100 times better. So it's, you just, anything you can possibly imagine that you'd want to do, you can have in there. You can do polls, you can pin stuff. You can answer directly to something. It's very, very user friendly, but an example would be, can I say mine here? Is that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So AmazonGroupChat.com. So, I mean, Scott, if you could jump in, that way you can poke around and look at it and see if Telegram is worth it for you. But what I did was I created a domain, and I'm like, let me go to AmazonGroupChat.com. And what it does is it just forwards you to a link now that has our 2 steps to enter. 1, download the app. 2, that has the actual link for you to join. So that has really helped educate people on how to do it.
Okay. And now once they're in that group, you can do audio too, or is that separate? You can do audio too.
You can do all of it. There's nothing you can't do in there. It's like amazing.
Okay. So
you even have bots. So like you can set up bots in there to say like, anytime somebody joins, I want to automatically send them this welcome message. You could create, like, obviously I pay for Keepa. So we have a Keepa bot. Anyone that wants to use the Keepa bot, they'll do like /Keepa. And I'm a Star Wars geek, so mine's called Palpatine. So it's like /Palpatine, and then it'll spit out whatever information they need.
Okay. Yeah. I always worry about that stuff as far as the people that they might not have the app, so then they wouldn't want to download another app, but I'm hearing more about it, and it's like weird. It's been out a long time. We are hearing about Clubhouse, and I'd like to hear your thoughts on Clubhouse. I've got my own thoughts on Clubhouse, but what's your thoughts on it?
I mean, there's a guy named, you probably know him, Cliff Ravenscraft. This is to give you an example. And I've just followed a lot of his stuff and listened to your shows. There's a lot of inspiration on how to start my podcast. And I was willing to put some money out to him at one point, because I'm like, man, he's got some good stuff on like consulting for this stuff. And I never got around to it. But one day I'm driving down the road and a Clubhouse pop-up comes up, and he's doing an AMA with only like 3 people in there. And I was like, this is pretty powerful like that. What I'm seeing mostly is a lot of people in there, and it seems to be like a lot of people beating their chest and here's my gross numbers and stuff like that. There's been some cool rooms. Other people are saying it's going to be a podcast killer. I think it's going to be a podcast enhancer, really. The jury's out for me on Clubhouse.
I've downloaded the app only to secure my name, and I have not went into a room. I'm at that point right now, Carlos, and you and I talked about it a little bit before we got on air. It's like one of your things is like, how do you stay present? Like, how do you, with all of the loudness on the, in the online space, it's like you could be active all the time. I'm not even that active on Instagram anymore. So when I seen Clubhouse, I was like, you know what? I'm not even going to touch it. And maybe I'm wrong in doing that, but for me, I've got my email, I've got my podcast, I've got Facebook, which is okay. I don't know if I need another thing, and for me, I was on Periscope when that first came out, and it was great when it came out. And then all of a sudden Twitter bought it, or did Twitter buy it, or was it part of Twitter? I forget. And then Facebook came out with their thing, killed it. And now it's no longer. That was actually better than Facebook, by the way, because people would get a little whistle and go, woo, and then you'd be like, oh, Scott's on, right? I had so much more engagement on that than I do on Facebook. And it's because they got that little alert. With Facebook, you don't know unless you pop on at that exact time and you see someone's live. So with Clubhouse, I'm hearing a lot of good things about it, but I'm also hearing, just again, it's like people are spending hours inside of a room. I'd rather be working on stuff. You know what I mean? Like, so for me, it's a distraction and I don't want to be distracted. So I'm just avoiding it right now. I'm not saying I won't do it. I'm just right now avoiding Clubhouse for right now.
Yeah. My group wants me to, get active, secure a club name like Wizards of Amazon or something. And I'm just like, guys, look, we just opened a location. We have a very active Meetup group. We do have the emails, like on a list of priorities that I have. And that's just on the professional side. Like Clubhouse is not there. Like it's not, It hasn't reached that. I'm not saying it's not an awesome thing. I'm not saying it won't be an amazing thing, but I just have to like pick my battles here.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Okay, cool. And then as far, and I want to ask you this, and you can answer it. You don't have to answer it, but The group, right? You've got this group, you do a lot of meetups. What's it doing for you? I mean, other than, yes, I want to help people. I want to a podcast. I do my coffee talks. I don't expect people to pay me, but I am making money. So where does this come back to help Carlos a little bit financially?
Well, for the vast majority of the Meetup's existence, there was no direct financial gain from the event. And I've had that approach to almost every business. You give a ton of value.
Yep.
Now, like 9 years ago, I think I did what a lot of people were doing at the time that had been selling on Amazon for a while. I started a service side of things. So I knew in the back of my head that if I was providing a ton of free value every week, if it did click with somebody would want to circle back and say, I really liked how he said it, what he said. Let's see if we're on the same page financially and this can make sense. So I've picked up clients on that side. So that's been one way, but 16 events per month, was it enough? No. Now what somebody convinced me to do almost 2 years ago is to start recording the events. So I record the events and then we have a video vault, which I think it's like $30 a month. Somebody pays a membership and they get access to everything. Plus they're able to live stream into the events. That shockingly I'm like, it's only $30. But you start looking at how many people are joining this from everywhere in the world. And you're like, I'm doing the events anyway. And now I'm making this. So that's done extraordinarily well. So the main reasons though, like the two main reasons that I wanted to do the meetup event, besides, getting in front of a bunch of people, was one of them is just, I've just had this thing on my list, which you've done, is I want to write a book. And I'm just like, I imagine if I need a book, I need a community, and the whole jab, right hook. And I tell people, I'm like, look, I'm going to give you all this value, but when this book comes out, I'm not giving you a discount. I want you to buy the $10 book full price. I want you to do that. I'm going to tell you too, I'm selling now. I'm selling you the book. Remember, I told you I was going to ask for something. And like, I want to do that. And I want to do some bigger events. Like I'd love to do something on the scale of, social media marketing world or traffic and conversion, but in the e-commerce space, that's less about, flavor of the week, black hat tactic, and more on, tried and true principles that just will help you evergreen, which is something I love about your show, that will just help you the same now as they will 10 years from now. And I want to do it in South Florida. And I'm like, well, if I have a really massive community, that's going to be a heck of a head start, I imagine.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think you could definitely pull off an event. You and I could talk privately about it. I could tell you some stuff. Ours obviously this past year had to get canceled because of pandemic and all of that stuff. And now we're
on the heels of such an amazing one.
Yeah, it was a great event. And I'll tell you what though, man, it was stressful leading up to it. And I knew it was going to be. I mean, when you're talking about you're on the hook for a lot of cash, and you need to fill seats, you need to fill room blocks, you got to, quotas, all of this stuff. And then you're starting to ask yourself, man, is this worth it? Is this worth it? But then, man, when you're there and you're able to see the impact of the people that are making connections. I launched my book on the back end of that. I had a line of people for 4 hours, like signing books. It was just, at the end of the day, I was like, it was totally worth it. But man, leading up, it was pretty stressful. And that was only 250 people. You're talking, like social media marketing world, that was like 7,000 people. And they have to rent out a whole different type of venue.
Well, it doesn't have to be like that on year one. Like I know they probably didn't start that way on year one, but I would I really would love to do that. Like it's just, yes, there needs to be financial gain in it, but that wouldn't be the main driver for me in that. So yeah, those are my sneaky motives.
One last question on the group. So the group, they get access. So people that come to the ones weekly, is that free for them?
It's all free. You can attend for free no matter what.
But now,
if you want to get access to
the recordings, then they would have to buy the $30 a month thing.
Yes.
Okay, cool. I like that. I think that's a great model. Now, anybody that can't come there because they're not in South Florida, they're just going to buy the $30 monthly pass, if you will, right? So they can get access to all of the recordings in the past and the ones in the future.
Correct. And now, even if you're not local, we stream it on an unlisted YouTube link. So like if you're a member of the group, the link is out there during the presentation. You can watch it live. Afterwards, we switch the link to private, and then you can only watch the recording afterwards. To try to make it fair for people that are not local as well.
Sure.
That's something that started recently. Like we were able to connect the tech during COVID. And it's been great. Yeah. I'm blessed.
That's really cool. Yeah, that's awesome. I'm glad for you on that. That's awesome. Okay, cool. Let's wrap this up with a story.
Sure.
Let's tell people about the story that Carlos almost didn't come back. So let's talk about this story. You have this trip. If you want to just kind of, I guess, give people a little bit of a background on the trip and kind of how you organize that and stuff.
Yeah. So our group, we have 2 trips per year, taking a group and traveling to China. We do it for free. So like not to take anything away from people that charge $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 to do that, but we just don't need it as a revenue source. And we have a blast, by the way, but we go for free and we coordinate our planes, our hotels, and all of our events. So on one of these trips to China, we are flying in. I probably have and a lot of people, they want to get on the plane with me. They're like, oh, I want to be on the plane with Carlos. And so they coordinate. So we had a good amount of people on the plane with me.
Okay.
We finally land after layovers and everything, probably 22 hours of traveling. And we land in Shanghai, and you could tell immediately, like all the stewardesses and everything, they were kind of getting nervous, and like everyone's trying to talk into the phone, and the plane's kind of going off from where it should be going. And all of a sudden, armed, I guess it's military or armed police or military board the plane, and they are looking for somebody. And I'm just sitting there, I'm looking at them, but I'm like, I've heard the stories. Let me not make eye contact. I'm just kind of looking down. I got an aisle seat with a whole bunch of leg room. And then all of a sudden they kind of stop in the seat in front of me. And I'm like, oh man, the person sitting next to me is in a lot of trouble. And they called my seat name and me, and they're like, come here. So I'm like, I'm getting up. I find out later that all my like people traveling with me from my group on the plane, they see this and they're like, oh my God, Carlos is getting the VIP treatment. I told you he knows. They were imagining I was getting like taken off on a limo. And I get off, they take my visa from me, like strip it from me. I'm thinking like, I need that. Like you're going to pass me on to somebody else and they're going to ask for my visa. And they take me across like we're going to like a dark area of this runway. They stop another plane. They keep screaming at me and pointing guns. And I'm just like, I'm going to die. Like, I don't know what to expect. Maybe I'm overreacting, but I'm just like, I'm going to freaking die. And I have no idea why. And then the one of them would like try to say something like, how many are you is what only thing I could get out. And I'm thinking, oh my God, do I have to get like special clearance to bring a group? Like, did I miss something here? Yeah. And when I try to say something, they would all scream, which sounded like a shut up with their body language. And then they stop a plane and they put me on a plane. Like they rolled out stairs and just put me on some random plane. And I'm like, where am I going? Oh my God. So they give me a ticket that they had already printed out that I'm going on this plane. I see that I'm going to California. And I said, I need my visa. Like I need my passport. I'm not going to be able to get back into California. And I'm thinking, freaking out already, but I'm like, you just did 20 something hours. It is brutal thinking that you're about to fly back. I have my entire group here depending on me. And it was just, they wound up giving me back. They wound up sending me back. It wound up being that a competitor actually, which it feels toxic even getting into it, but like a competitor who has family in China was apparently able to like reach the right people and say that I was there to fraud or do something to a person, tourist or fact business or something like that. So I'm back over here. I have some people in my group that really don't know me for years. And I'm like, I can't even say the truth here because like, I don't want to attach my name with fraud in the same sentence to anybody. Eventually I did. I was extremely depressed here in the house and I've gotten over it. Fortunately, we fixed the issue. And it looks like we'll be going back to China, October, hopefully of next year. But that's the story. It was wild, man.
So yeah, man. I mean, gosh, that has to be so scary. I mean, you can't speak the language. You got probably machine guns that they're holding, and you're thinking to yourself, "What the heck?" And then you're thinking about the group. What do I look like here? Some of these people don't know me as well, and oh my gosh. And so you end up getting back. Everything is okay, and now when you're going, you got to have that in the back of your head.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. It'll absolutely be there.
Oh man. All right, man. Well, hey, let's pick it up one notch before we go here. Let people know what's happening in Carlos's world and how people can either join one of your groups or learn a little bit more about Carlos and your podcast and all that good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. My podcast is Wizards of Amazon. It's something I just absolutely love doing. Again, heavily inspired by you, Scott. I appreciate that from a distance. You've been like my coach from afar on that. And I put a lot of love into it. So if anyone wants to go over there and, give me a listen or a review if it's worthy and give me some feedback on the shows, I'd love it. As far as getting a hold of me, the easiest way is going to be Telegram nowadays, just because nice. I feel Facebook doesn't put all my messages out. So go to amazongroupchat.com. Also, some people think I'm crazy, but any questions you wanted to connect with me on anything, I put my number in these things. Nobody calls. So it's 305-902-1283. So that's the easiest way to get a hold of me. And what's going on in my life, I'm just trying to figure out how to be a rock star dad without taking my foot off the gas at my businesses and making sense of this new normal during or after the pandemic. I think like everybody else.
Yeah. Let's leave people with one little thing here. What is that? I guess, what is your balance right now? Like, how are you, and maybe you're reading a book to help you with this, but I know it's a constant struggle. Even for myself. And I'm trying to meditate in the morning now. I'm trying to get myself dialed in the morning so I have a good day, but also when I'm at the volleyball, beach, I'm there, you know what I mean? Like, What are you doing to help in that?
It's working with coaches and realizing that this is something that's important to me, but unless I have my actions show it's important, then really it's not important.
Yeah.
I'm always looking for masterminds, but like non-toxic masterminds, and looking at my relationship and starting to look at it as if that is my mastermind and that should be my most important mastermind, and treating it as such. And it's something that's helped me a ton is I'm doing I've always been a big business journaler period, but I'm doing Brendan Bouchard's high performance planner. And I do that in the beginning of the day and at the end. And that really helps. It really sets the tone. It lets me set my intention. And if I look at my intentions and I'm like, well, I'd include my wife and kids in this, like it's helping me be a little more aware. And I'm not saying that that's the solution, but that's what I'm currently working on to try to figure this out.
Yeah, no, I'm glad that you brought that up. And I think being transparent with people is just always a good thing. And to let people know, like, yeah, Carlos, if you look at him from afar, successful business guy, been through a lot, but successful and willing to go out there and take risks. But yet he's still struggling with some stuff too. It's like we all are, you know what I mean? But it's just being, I guess, big enough and man enough to admit it. And I think that helps other people as well. So Carlos, man, this has been awesome. Thank you so much for taking time. And we're gonna have to get you back on again in the future. And we'll have to probably before the trip though, but then I'm gonna have to get you back on again after the trip and see if you made it back. So Carlos, thank you so much, brother. I appreciate you. And thanks for coming on.
It's been an honor, man. Thank you so much for having me on the show.
All right. Well, there you have it. I wasn't kidding, right? What a crazy story. And I love digging in to entrepreneurs that have been up, they've been down, they've been up, they've been down, and they're still dealing with their own stuff. And as Carlos said, a lot of it right now is how do you spend time with your family? How do you spend time working on what really lights you up in business? How do you prioritize all of those things? And I think it's a constant struggle that we're all dealing with. But really in that conversation, what I took away was, you know what? You got to go out there and learn. You got to do, and you got to show up. And the way that he described how he started his community and where that's led him, again, is something that started by him just saying, how can I serve this market? And it doesn't matter if it's selling crickets or if it's helping people with their online businesses or their Amazon stuff. It does always start with how can I become just someone in the community that genuinely helps someone. And you can hear, or you heard with Carlos, that's exactly what he did. So I would definitely go over and follow Carlos. Again, just a great guy, willing to share. And I know that you'll learn a ton more just by going over there and following him, especially if you are in the Amazon game. All right. So guys, that's going to wrap up this episode. The show notes can be found at brandcreators.com/942. And the video, if you want to watch that, will be located on YouTube. So make sure that you go check that out. All right, guys. So that's it. That's going to wrap it up. As always, remember, I'm here for you. I believe in you and I am rooting for you. But you have to, come on, say it with me, say it loud, say it proud, take action. Have an awesome, amazing day. And I'll see you right back here on the next episode. Now let's rock your brand.